9:16 AM on this Tuesday morning's OTB AM. Delighted to have you with us as per usual. Myself and Johnny Ward with you this morning. Now, mental health in sport, particularly in high performance athletes, is a topic that's been getting a lot of attention of late, but supports for the mental well-being of sports people isn't being reactive to mental health issues when they arise, but rather implementing the support measures to prevent them. Cricket Ireland, supported by the Irish Cricket Association, has recently introduced a series of mental health supports and access to therapeutic services for their players through the organisation Inspire, one of the largest providers of workplace wellbeing in Ireland. So we wanted to touch on this and just the work that's being done in cricket behind the scenes to help athletes at the top level deal with, I guess, the pressures of the sport and everything that comes with it. So delighted to have George Dockrell in studio with us, the Irish cricket player. How are you keeping, George?
Yeah, good, thanks.
It's been a number of years. We were just chatting during the ad break there. You have been in here before, but it's been a while. It probably looks slightly bit different.
Yeah, a bit of a change up. I think probably 4 or 5 years ago. We were in here before a series against England, so it's nice to be back.
Are you travelling to England tomorrow?
Yep, no, we're heading over to play Essex in a warm-up game first, and then on to Lords as well to play England in a test match. So exciting next couple of weeks. You've been
really at the top of your game the last couple of years. Like, do you feel like you're in your prime at the moment?
Yeah, look, I've really enjoyed it. I've probably quite a unique career in the fact that I've switched from being a bowler to more of a batter. I lost my contract for a little bit in the middle of that period as well. So I think coming back and kind of feeling like, right, I'm going to make every last bit of this count has definitely helped me. So I've really enjoyed my cricket. I think the last
part of mental health as well, where it's like, you have to contextualise, actually I need to make the most of this.
Definitely, yeah, and just trying to be a bit more present. I find whenever I look a year, 2 years in advance, I find it quite hard to then actually enjoy the trip I'm on. So I suppose, yeah, my attitude's been a little bit more enjoying each trip as maybe my last time there, maybe my last game, and with that attitude it's been going really well.
You would have represented Ireland from, is it under 13 level onwards? So like it's not like you were a late blossomer. You have been a prodigy from a pretty young age.
Yeah, like I would have started, within the system at 13 and came into the national team at 17 as well. So, had quite an early start. Had a few issues maybe in the middle, where I was trying to, work out things within my game. But as I said, then being able to come back into the squad now, and see how much cricket's changed even in these last 12 years, 13 years with the Irish team. It's been amazing, and I've really enjoyed it.
Were you considering quitting the sport when you didn't get that contract that time?
I needed to do some other things outside. I had my data science degree at DCU, so I went on and did a little bit more work with that. I took an internship in data analytics.
You were in Pricewaterhouse schools, or are you still there?
Yeah. So with PwC. So again, I went away for a little bit. Got a taste, I guess, of the other side of things. And once I'd finished my degree, which was last year, I guess now it's like trying to make the most out of my cricket then, and knowing that, look, that is there for me when I finish. But yeah, look, it definitely helped me, I think, to take a little bit of pressure off the cricket and realise that at the end of the day it is still sport, and trying to play with that attitude.
This is a stupid question, but can you marry data analytics and sport?
Yeah, and look, we've really changed our approach, I think, in terms of our attitude towards cricket, even just as a national team. Scott Irvine, our analyst, is brilliant in terms of the information and insights he gives us. Again, if I could move into that after playing, it'd be fantastic.
Does he feel a little bit like, Jesus, I better say this, I better sound good here, or George is going to call me out?
Not at all. I think I probably pick up more from him than that. So look, I love a lot of the information that we get now.
Cool.
Cricket's becoming a lot more data driven, and I think the nature of the game, the way it is play after play and it resets every time, means it's a lot more open to being analysed. So look, it's a really interesting area, and look, maybe that's something that I could get into after I'm done playing.
There's that Netflix doc for
Ron. There you go, yeah, following George around. We've spoken on the show plenty of times about League of Ireland players, especially younger players, and heading over to England or staying here. I know Brexit has kind of changed that a little bit for young players, but for you made a debut, I think, for Ireland at senior level at 17, and you obviously went over to England then to cut your teeth in English county cricket. I guess is that the only pathway for really talented international level Irish cricketers, or are there other ways you can go about it?
It was when I was younger. It was a slightly different landscape. The change in the rules now means that if you're playing in England as an Irish cricketer, you're an overseas player.
Right.
So the opportunities are different, and now all the young players are now developing their game in Ireland. And it's a very different landscape. I think a lot of the young cricketers have to develop their game in international cricket, and that's incredibly tough and incredibly mentally challenging. But we're seeing with the likes of Josh Little, who's at the IPL right now, over in India, Harry Tector, Lorcan Tucker, who have come through that Irish system without the use of the English setup, that we can create brilliant cricketers on the island of Ireland, and slightly unique way of doing it. As I said, a lot of it's kind of being in at the deep end and learning on your feet, but we've shown that it's possible, and I think that's really promising for Irish cricket.
What's been the highlight for you career-wise from an international perspective? Like, is there when people ask you that question, is it an obvious moment that stands out?
Not really. I think it's been different moments along the way. Beating England in 2011 in that World Cup was
not bad.
was pretty good. But again, beating England last year in the T20 World Cup was quite special, with a new group of players trying to play a slightly different, more attacking brand of cricket. Playing our first Test matches and seeing how we've pushed cricket in Ireland from where it was when I started and to where it is now, and the supports that the young players have, and even the opportunities, like I said, to see the Tectors, the Tuckers, the Littles, fly the flag around the world with the world's best. So I think that shows that we're in a much better place than when I started, and being able to see that's been pretty fun.
I have to say, I do love the mixture of people on the Irish cricket team. Just, it's almost like all walks of life, really, like north and south, just thrown together, and seems to be like this necessary harmony out of just like respect and love for each other and cricket, like. Yeah,
and look, it's it's an all-island sport, and I play with guys in the team who have been playing against underage cricket, under 11s all the way through, and so it is fantastic in that sense, and we have a great makeup within the squad, so hopefully that continues.
You mentioned there the desire and the reality now of Ireland playing a more attacking brand of cricket. What does that translate to in actual terms, and how does that develop over a couple of years? Like, what needs to happen in order for that to happen?
I guess a lot of it was the messaging from top down, so from the coaches, from the captain, and then from the players buying into that. In simple terms, with our batting, it was going out there and taking it to the opposition, kind of no matter what position you're in, and making sure that you back your options and take them. Now, it does mean that when you try and play that way, every now and then you fail, and you probably fail spectacularly when you do fail, but it means that you're trying to win and you give yourself the best chance to win every game. And I think once you're trying to play that way, you learn, and that's what I found, that I probably wasn't doing that in my earlier stages of batting in international cricket, but once I put myself under more pressure in the games, I did fail quite a few times, but eventually you do work things out, and as a group we've seemed to do that pretty well the last 12 months.
You mentioned there that the supports that are there for younger players now, and that's what we wanted to touch on today, is that the Cricket Ireland are leading the way in many ways in terms of the supports there for its athletes, and I know they're working alongside, as I said, Inspire as well. And it is tough, I can imagine, for athletes at the elite level, because as you say, you're balancing life, family, sport, keeping yourself in good shape, and demands from elsewhere as well. Even as you say, when you lost your contract, like that takes its toll mentally.
Yeah, it does. I guess, look, athletes, the highs are high, the lows are low. I think that's something that all athletes can understand. I think within cricket, we have some unique pressures in terms of how long our tours can be at times. So we were on a 7-8 week trip to Bangladesh and Sri Lanka through the winter, and if you're away from your family, your friends, your support network, and if times are tough through that, I think that can really challenge your resolve. So look, working on your physical health and on your skills in your game is so important, but also your mental health too can be just as important, especially when those times are tough. So Cricket Ireland are aware of that, as are the ICA, and hence we have access to the Inspire support service, which is fantastic for all of us.
I think, Shane, this is important. So, like, it wasn't really reported on recently, but Damien Duff was doing I think Shells had won a game recently, but he was doing some sort of interview afterwards, post-match interview, the normal stuff. Just out of nowhere, he just mentioned Ben Curtis from Drogheda, who's taken a step back from the game to look after his mental health. Yeah. And it wasn't much reported on, but this is complete outlier stuff. This just doesn't happen. And the bravery of that kid to do that, because the natural inclination must be just get on with it, or at least come up with some other excuse.
Yeah, and look, it is something that we're seeing more and more across a variety of different sports, which is great. I think that people are understanding that there's times when you need a physical break, and similarly sometimes your mental health. It's so important that you need to keep an eye on that. Again, a lot of the stuff we're talking about with Inspire and a lot of these mechanisms, I guess trying to avoid getting to that point. And it can be across a kind of a wide range of services for whatever different people need, but again, a lot of it I think comes from trying to have those things in place before those issues arise. And we're aware of it. We speak about it. Before that last trip, we knew this is going to be a tough tour, and our captain Andy Balburney is fantastic. That the first thing he said at the start of the trip is, this is going to be a tough trip, and whenever you need, my door's open, come and talk, because you're going to have that point in this trip where you need to, and we are good as a group at discussing those things and staying together.
Yeah, I don't know if that's normal. Like, I don't know, is that like, that's for Andy to say that, like, because
it's brilliant. Like,
it's paradoxical as well. It's like, it's not consistent with, like, say if you're a rugby player, the hits you're taking physically, hit, just get on with it. But like, there's another side to it as well.
Yeah, and look, I think cricket is such a mental game. I've found the biggest growth I've had has always been mental. It's always been actually just sitting down and thinking about what I'm trying to do, and working on more kind of coping mechanisms under pressure, clarity around what I want to do, and even just being in a better headspace in the morning of big games, I find has been the biggest thing I can do, as opposed to training the day before. So look, it is a big area that we're aware of. Again, cricket, there's a lot of failures within there, especially with batting, and there's a lot of luck involved too. So I think you need to have that resilience, and you need to have those mechanisms for when times are tough, because they will be at some stage.
What sort of coping mechanisms have you kind of learned for pressure over the years? Because I suppose when you're, as I said, 17 coming into the Irish team, it's different to the George Dockrell now. It's completely, I'd imagine, psychologically especially different. So what sort of coping mechanisms have you kind of brought into your career to make life easier?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of different things. Reframing is one of the most simple ones that I've used under pressure. I know, I'm not sure who it was early on who spoke about this, but reframing anxiety or stress around games into excitement. Those huge games were what I used to fear when I was 22 or 23, those big moments. But then I realised, look, when I'm finished this game, I'll give anything to be back out in the middle of a game, under pressure, having been hit for a 6 out of the stadium, and I have to, come back again. And
I think that's really, really relevant. Like, say, like Shane's sister was on the lately singing, and I did think about what is that like mixture of fear and excitement at the start, and being able to turn that maybe slight anxiety, and I'm paraphrasing here, but into, wow, this is an opportunity. Like,
yeah, and look, it is, because again, I'd rather go out and get hit for 6 sixes or have failed at the highest level in that arena than not do it. And I know that when I finish playing cricket, when I'm a bit older and a lot more grey, I'll be thinking, how amazing was it to go out and be in that moment at that time. So again, trying to keep reframing it like that. I know I'm lucky, I've played a lot of games for Ireland, so I suppose I don't feel like I have a whole lot to lose if this were my last year in that sense. So I'm lucky, I know, with that. But again, just trying to enjoy it, because it is incredible. It is sports still at the end of the day, so you're trying to keep positive around that, and once you do that, I find then I also will play better, most importantly.
That's the fascinating thing, because we had Ronnie O'Sullivan in here last week.
I was going to mention him, actually.
Yeah. Like, he's spoken about Steve Peters and the work he's done with his psychologist over the years, and two of the things in his book that really stood out to me that he's used as his little things of positive affirmation, and the dimmer switch. I think someone mentioned to him about a dimmer switch and how you can just light it for yourself as you see fit. It doesn't always have to be bright or dark. And the other thing was almost the overview effect, or the helicopter effect of, sometimes he said he's in a massive match at the Crucible, and he almost can see himself from above, and he's like, oh, this doesn't matter. It almost relaxes his body, where he's like, this is making himself at ease almost in the middle. So it is that kind of thing that different sports people use different niche things to relax themselves at what should be a really stressful moment.
Yeah, and again, it is so unique to each player. what you need for that match. And again, I'm still finding ways to try and be at my best in those moments. Like it's not all rosy. I still learn every week. And again, Nathan Horrocks, our new spin bowling coach, has been brilliant. He's given me a couple more techniques for dealing with pressure. And again, it's been mental work as opposed to technical stuff. So again, like I'm still learning the whole way through. And then you might find that those things work for you, and it also might change over time. So I guess it's just constantly working, trying to find new methods that help you for that time.
The great thing is as well, there's no end line for it. You don't reach a point in your career or in your life actually where you say, okay, I'm mentally perfect now. No one ever is perfect, so it's like it's one of those things that you have to be consistently working on throughout your life and career with cricket, I'd imagine, because you're never going to get to the end point.
No, and I think a lot of what I try and do as well is even writing down little bits and pieces, because there's times when I might find a book where I had a few notes and it kind of re-triggers something within me that I was doing a few years before. So I've started trying to write down a little bit more of my thoughts around those kind of things, and a lot of the time then when I read them, sometimes it's positive affirmations or whatever, it can kind of bring me back to that moment where maybe I was playing a little bit better than I am right now. But yeah, I found that's really helped me, I suppose, the last 12 months. Yeah,
I'm impressed, to be fair, Cricket Ireland, those supports, and as you said, the Irish Cricket Association as well. And that's the thing that impressed me when I was reading up on this in advance, is that they're seeing the player, the person behind the player, whereas when we're watching these matches on TV, all we see is the player, and sometimes you can forget that all these people have lives. We spoke about it earlier with the Leinster players. They all have family there who are in bits after the match, and that's probably an element of it that we don't think about with elite sports people.
And Katie Taylor as well, Katie Taylor to come out of, her face is all over the paper looking bruised and devastated, that's not easy for her to deal with, for somebody who's used to winning as well.
No, and look, it is, it is a challenge, I think, being an athlete. I think you want to be people first and athletes second, and that's how you want people to view you. And I think, look, Cricket Ireland and the ICA have that whole view, and hence we have access to this Inspire Support Hub, which is fantastic, and it's a nice range of services as well. It's it is quite bespoke to whatever different athletes need, whether it's the phone line, whether it's the online platform, or therapy if needs be. So it's fantastic to have that range of services, because again, you're people first and athletes second, and it's pretty important to remember that.
Absolutely. Listen, George, great to catch up. Best of luck over in England as well, and no doubt we'll catch up again soon in the next little while. Cheers. Great to talk to you as always. George Dockrell, the Irish cricketer there, joining myself and Johnny on OTB AM on this Tuesday morning at 9:33 AM.